What's going on, guys? Welcome to PNP. This is your boy Dave, one half of PNP, and I'm here to talk about Leonard Fournette. This is the next fantasy spotlight. Shout out to the Patreon folks, man. Become a patron if you want to get these videos early. Go to patreon.com/PantherNationPC to get these videos early, and the link will be in the description below. So also shout out to Underdog Fantasy, the place if you want to do over-unders. You win up to 20 times your money, and they're doing the best ball drafts for fantasy football right now. So check them out. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the code PNP. It really helps out the channel. So let's get into Leonard Fournette. I know Leonard Fournette is a unique piece when you talk about a running back. He's probably going to lower end of the running back one position from that standpoint. So I'm going to throw some quick facts up here about Leonard Fournette, show you some data, let you guys stew on it, think about it, and then I'll give you my recommendations for the options of what you do with Leonard Fournette. And we'll talk about some of the latest news that happened with Leonard Fournette as well, because I think that's going to be a factor in what your decision-making is going to be when it comes to where you take him. So let's get into it. Fun times indeed. All right, Leonard Fournette. All right, so the big thing about Leonard Fournette, man, fantasy points per game. Now, just a caveat for you guys. He played for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2019. So 2021, 2020, he was a buck. So I want you guys to keep that into consideration when you start thinking about those things. Now, that being said, he was 4th last season in fantasy points per game, 6th in fantasy points that season. He was 37th in fantasy points per game in 2020, and he was 35th. And he was 9th in fantasy points per game and 7th in total fantasy points in 2019 in his final year with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So overall, man, like when he's here, when he wants to play, when he's in shape, we'll get into that later. He's a pretty dang good running back from that standpoint, and they tend to use him a lot. All right. So from that standpoint, I think Leonard Fournette is a dependable running back during the season for the most part. As you can see, I also put the number of games that he played during his last 3 seasons. He has not played a full season yet, but at the running back position, that happens. I mean, there was only 12 players that played all 17 games last season at the running back position, and not all 12 of them were starters. So let's keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when I start making these comments. Some of the players are top 3 in fantasy football, didn't play all their games last season. Austin Eckler is an example of that. So just keep those things in mind when I put those games played during the fantasy spotlights. All right. Now overall, Leonard Fournette, solid guy. Overall, he's been pretty good from that standpoint. But there's other factors you need to keep in mind when you start thinking about Leonard Fournette this season. One big factor you have to think about is that there is a new head coach. Todd Bowles is now the head coach. Now, granted, the offensive coordinator is still Byron Leftwich, so I anticipate things are going to be the same or pretty much similar, because I'm pretty sure between Tom Brady and Leonard Fournette, they're going to be controlling the offense. So I think we'll see more of 2021 Lenny more than 2020 from that standpoint. Just my opinion on the matter. All right, moving on. So some of the notes, man. He had at least 15 touches, 12 out of 14 games. 5 of those games had at least 20. That screams low-end RB1, teetering towards high-end RB2. So just keep that in mind. He had at least 5 targets in 12 out of the 14 games. So that's something to keep in mind, too, when you talk about what happened last year. And he missed the final 3 weeks of the season. He got hurt in week 15. Yes, it's week 15. So he got hurt in week 15. So when you take that into consideration, too, they utilize him throughout the year. As you can see, like I said, he had at least 15 touches in 12 out of the 14 games. He had 5 games for at least 20 of those touches. Those are the things you got to keep in mind. When you start thinking about how to handle Leonard Fournette, you could handcuff him. You could handcuff him. You probably need to pay attention when it comes to training camp from that standpoint. So here are my final thoughts. Right now, his average draft position is 24th overall, which is good for 11th among running backs. So low-end RB1, high-end RB2, within that range right there. Wouldn't be mad if he's your RB1 if you decide to take a wide receiver in the first round. I recommend you monitor the situation in Tampa Bay. As the reports right now have been showing, like initially during mini camps and things of that sort, He came there around 260 pounds. He showed up at training camp around 245. So he's close to the normal playing weight that he's at. So from that standpoint, I was nervous, and then I saw the reports about him going, because I initially, when I heard he went up to 260, I scratched him off my board. But now he's getting back into game playing shape. I'm not as worried. But that being said, like I said before, never played a full season. They drafted Rachaad White. I'm thinking he's going to end up being the handcuff. Ronald Jones now plays for the Chiefs. Giovanni Bernard is still there, but it looks like Giovanni Bernard is going to end up being the pass catching, running the third down back. That's another thing we need to kind of factor in as well, if they make the decision to go the third down back route. So those are the type of things you need to keep in mind when it comes to Leonard Fournette. Right now, I got him as a second-round grade, near the bottom more than the top. Like I said before, I think I would be cool with him being my RB1 if push came to shove, particularly if I decide to take a running back, take a wide receiver in the first round. Like if you make the decision to go with a Justin Jefferson, a Jamar Chase, even a Travis Kelce, if you make the decision to go tight end, or a Cooper Kupp, I could be fine with taking this guy in the second round to be my RB1. There are obviously there's better options from my standpoint that I would rather have. But as our RB1, I'm kind of comfortable with it, as long as we keep seeing the progression of him improving upon his weight. Like that's going to be a factor that really needs monitoring during training camp. I mean, I hope he doesn't fall off the wagon, because Tom Brady is very dependent on him. The fact that he averages about 5 targets a game, considering that he's pretty much going to be the first and second down back, I'm kind of cool with this guy as an RB1 if you end up taking a wide receiver in the first round. I don't have a first round grade on him, but I'm cool with taking this guy in the second. So from that standpoint, that's all I got on Leonard Fournette. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. You can follow the podcast at Panther Nation PC on Twitter and all of the social media outlets. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when we do updates and things of that sort. Become a Patreon, because those guys will get this video early. And with that in mind, peace, guys.